the end zone! Touchdown Bulldogs!
The Dogs win the GLIAC tournament title!
Well, that's how you get it started right there.
I want to give the teams and athletes the freedom to be creative.
I think that's something we rally around as a team. We're out there no matter what the weather is.
We just do a good job of eating it up and using it to our advantage no matter what.
I got a lot of pride in being a Bulldog. I think it's awesome.
You're listening to Behind the Bulldogs, brought to you by Ferris State Athletics.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Behind the Bulldogs. Brandon Wirt, Joe Nagy with you here for this fine episode number 8, Joe, and it's a good one too.
It really is. We got quite the nice set of slate coming up for Ferris State Athletics that we got to review, but we also have good friend of the show and I guess you could say reoccurring guest back from the MVSP days, Chaplain Mike Wissink coming on the show, and it's always a great time chatting it up with him. Yeah, for sure. Getting to learn who P. Mike is and what he does, and for those that don't know, super cool guy. Couldn't say more great things about him. Yeah, dude's a legend, man. He really is. But before we get into that, of course, the Ferris State rundown here. What do we got, Brando? Got a lot of things to cover, and especially we'll start with probably the obvious one that everyone remembers, and especially with the relevance of P. Mike in the interview. We're talking a lot with him off the show about this game. 28-10 win over Davenport in football. I mean, slight. It was just number 7's day. I mean, he had an absolute game of his career, and it was a fantastic thing to see for this Bulldog team. And they did it in all phases too, not just from him, but offensively, defensively, special teams. Got the job done. They scored when they needed to, and they were able to get the W against a tough Davenport Panther team. Especially going to the half down, being able to hold them to scoreless in the second half was pretty huge. I think we had 212 yards passing, 83 yards rushing, so a little bit slacking in that one, but still think we did pretty solid. But yeah, like you said, story of the day, number 7, Sean Stevens, just tore it up. Absolutely. GLIAC Special Teams Player of the Week. Shout out to him with his pick 6 and as well a kick return for a TD. Yep. And the win moves us up in the rankings too. So that's a pretty big thing as well, since the last game of the regular season is coming up against Wayne State. What we got next sport, Brando? Absolutely. We got hockey on deck. St. Lawrence came to town, gave us fits night 1, a 5-2 win there for St. Lawrence. But the Bulldogs battled back, thrilling 2-1 overtime winner, thanks to Mr. V himself, Antonio Venuto, that guy, number 23, with the win. Guy. He is him. But great game overall on a bounce back note for Ferris State. I mean, obviously we saw St. Lawrence just came out with a flurry of offensive execution that we had not expected probably from that team. They came out and played lights out compared to what we'd seen on paper from them. But especially when you looked at how this team adjusted overall in that second game, I mean, you could just tell right out of the gate, got more shots on net, defensively locked down, were able to execute, especially against their offensive attacks. You could see fundamentally the defense was doing a lot better job of being able to slow the game down for St. Lawrence offensively, and they were able to throw it out. And it was a really, really thick game. It just felt like it was really, really gritty, and that's just bottom line. Interesting adjective. It was thick. Interesting adjective that you use for that one. But yeah, definitely a big step up from from day one, and especially on Saturday night. But you get that win, shows resiliency, and especially with a tough Minnesota State team coming to town this upcoming week, they've kind of fallen in their depth. Minnesota State has, but it's still going to be a tough one with CCHA action resuming. Absolutely, and of course, I got to clarify. Thick meaning slower moving in that regard from my adjective choice, Joe. It's an interesting choice. But I respect the vocabulary regardless. Next sport, what we got? Anyway, good transition over to volleyball. Not able to get the win over Grand Valley, fall in 4, but get on the right track against Purdue Northwest, a 5-set thriller. The Dogs able to win down in Hammond. Really hard-fought road win. I love the way the recap Monch mentioned that because it really was. I mean, the fact of the matter is the Pride played one of their best games of the season, and the Dogs had to battle back a little bit. I mean, especially we had that two-set lead early on. Pride able to just chip away and get back into it, winning 2 close sets right after, and then it takes extra points for us to pull out the victory. But just definitely a good one to get back on track, especially for just the unfortunate and really kind of a
gauntlet they had to go through on the road at Parkside, on the road at Grand Valley, but able to get a win against Purdue Northwest, especially important going into this weekend, where they're going to have to take on two gritty teams that not necessarily are dominant in the record category, but can put it together on certain nights, and that's certainly something to watch out for here this weekend. Yeah,
we want to close it out on a high note. Special shout out to, I think it was Claire Nowicki and Olivia, who really stood out in that second game with a lot of points themselves. So big time plays from everybody. That's what I like to see. Hopefully, we get 2 dubs upcoming this weekend.
That would be pretty sweet.
It'd be so cool.
Pretty sweet. Anyway, Ferris State Soccer wins over Saginaw Valley State twice. 2 times. Twice the fun. Winning against Saginaw Valley 2-1 on Thursday. 1-0 on Monday in the GLIAC tournament's quarterfinal round. So they will now advance to face against a team that they've been waiting for. They will face Northern Michigan once again. I believe that one game will be up at Marquette.
Yeah, we're traveling pretty much
for the semifinal. Time. Yeah, it's going to be a tough travel, of course, but I mean, especially for how well that defense is locked in the last couple of games.
It don't matter.
Offensively.
It does not matter.
Able to put up some great chances and be able to execute. I mean, that's what we saw this team last year in November, and that's certainly a good trend we'd love to follow here coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely want to see it the next few rounds of this GLIAC tournament coming up. Cross country, Brandon, was also in action.
Yeah.
What did the fellows and the ladies do down there?
Oh, they did some damage, of course. Great performances across the board from cross country. I mean, moving up to a 10K for the men is obviously the toughest thing all year. We adapted, very resilient as well. A couple guys, especially Ryan Osaski, Cooper Sorensen, big shout out to them, ran very, very well and stepped up in that race for us on the men's side. Able to finish, I believe, 17th overall, one of our best performances in recent program history. We were 16th last year, but definitely it was a different kind of course that we had to face against this year compared to last year. But especially for the women as well, facing 12th overall in the region. Very good performances from them as well, making it up. Daisy England and Hannah Brock, I believe, top 10 all-time marks there at Angel Mounds in the 6K. So congrats to them on their good races as well. It was really good weekend for the Bulldogs there, running around on the grass over there at Angel Mounds. So that was a really good overall performance from them and a good cap off to what was a very successful season overall.
Yeah, huge. That's what we like to see right there.
That's what we like to see. You like that?
I like that.
You like that?
I like that.
Are you sure you like that?
I like that.
Okay. Anyway, finishing out the Ferris State Sports slate, basketball has started. Joe, did you hear about that?
I also heard about that.
They're starting to shoot some hoops down there. So a win for Ferris State in the preseason over Calvin, 9-point win for that club at home. Big win for them, especially playing at home at Wink for the first time. Able to pick up some big time W's. And it was really a close game. Calvin's no slouch of a team, especially in the preseason. So they played very well, but the Dogs able to prevail at the end of the day on top at home to start the exhibition slate. And now they will be finishing up here, coming up there this week, and they'll be in the regular season with tournament action coming up here this weekend in Ohio.
Yeah, and women's is starting up later this weekend too.
Exactly, yeah.
Times are changing here at Ferris State, but that's going to wrap it up for the Ferris State slate of what's going on or what has happened. Brandon, what do we got now?
Looks like we should send it over to the interview, Joe.
Should we?
I mean, that's what the template graph schedule thing says, that we're supposed to follow every week that we don't necessarily follow every week.
We have a template?
Where is it? I lost it.
Never thought we would add a template.
I don't know where it is. It might be hidden on my screen. I don't know.
Yeah, probably it is. But without further ado,
let's swing it to the interview.
Now joining us in studio, Ferris State Chaplain Mike Wissink. Thank you so much for coming on, P. Mike.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, so glad to have you, P. Mike. First question we'll throw at you, a very easy softball question, I'm sure. What brought you to Ferris State in the first place and decided to become a team chaplain for Ferris Athletics?
I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with my life when I grow up. And seeing how I didn't get into medical school, I always had a heart to want to serve and help people. And so after a few years of trying to figure that out, I'd spent a number of summers working out at Cran Hill Ranch, which is a year-round camping ministry, Christian camping ministry. And then transitioned from that to doing campus ministry on the encouragement of a friend of mine who was actually in this position doing campus ministry before I came into it. And so I helped him, for a few years, and then he left, and I kind of took over. And then It was in the late 90s, early 2000s. A door was open for me to get involved with our men's basketball team. And that's kind of where I got started.
Cool.
It's just been a domino effect after that, pretty much.
Very much so.
Yeah. And I mean, if some of our listeners might remember, you are a reoccurring guest, technically, since you were on the MVSP a while ago.
Yes.
That's
probably,
true.
like 2 years ago or something like that?
Yes,
Feels
sir.
like it's too long ago.
Yeah, way too long.
Too long ago.
I mean, what's been new in life? Has much stuff kind of changed? Like, what's been happening in the life of P. Mike?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. In my own personal life, couple of kids. Our son is married and we have a couple of grandkids, and so they're way out in Colorado. So that's always tugging at my heart to find time to visit them and hang out with them. And other than that, just kind of enjoying life at the farm when I'm not on campus hanging out with students. So.
Awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And especially for many of you that might not necessarily know who P. Mike is, obviously you work with a lot of the teams. And just kind of a nutshell, what are some of the things that you provide resource-wise, especially for the student athletes across all the sports that you work with?
It usually depends on kind of how the coaches want to utilize me. Sometimes that takes the shape and the form of doing a chapel for the team, and some of those chapels are voluntary. Some of them, everybody participates. And then if asked, I oftentimes will pray with teams before their contests or before team meals and functions, whether it's award banquets or stuff like that. So I get a chance to do that. Some coaches utilize me pretty heavily just as a first responder for crisis, depending on what's going on in a student's life. They'll have me reach out to that particular student and we meet and just listen and try to encourage them and point them in a direction of somebody who's more skilled than I am when it comes to some of those issues in life where they need a little more counseling. But so I get a chance to do some of that. I've had the privilege of helping with some leadership development in some of our programs, doing a book study on what it means to be a leader within a team and how do we function in that aspect. I get to drive bus part-time, so sometimes it means I sit in the driver's seat and take teams to their destination, and everybody always feels a little bit good, I think, when the team chaplain is driving the bus. I don't know why, but
for some reason, I don't know.
Couple extra prayers before we go,
believe
course.
me, I'm praying awful hard when I'm driving because it's just a little more responsibility than sitting in the back chilling and hanging out with the players and the coaches. But yeah, so that's kind of in a nutshell what it is, and just taking a general interest in the lives of student athletes. If I want to have that relationship where students aren't afraid of me, I need to grow those friendships, and so take them out for lunch or breakfast or just meet with them, kind of. Not in a professional sense, but just as a friend, and develop that relationship with them. So in those moments when there is something, they can give me a shout and give me a call and know that it's going to be pretty relaxed and just like talking to a friend.
Mm-hmm. What's been like the worst route that you ever had to drive for being a bus driver?
It was one of the last games of the season a couple years ago when we had to drive up to Michigan Tech.
Oh, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a snowstorm. We left in a blizzard here, and I could hardly see. I was the second bus. I could hardly see the bus ahead of me. And there was a couple of times where the bus, I could feel it sliding, as we're heading towards Grayling.
That's unfortunate.
And and then it's thinking like, doggone it, we got 6 hours of this stuff yet.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
That's just miserable.
Yeah, I do not like driving in the snow with those big buses.
Oh, I don't think you're alone in that department, that's for sure. So, but speaking of driving, of course, you have an opportunity every March. You take a group of athletes, and as well with your other ministry with Fellowship of Christian Students as well, to go down on mission trips as well. Talk about that experience as well. It's just all the great memories you make as well, bringing students down there to help the cause.
Yeah, Yeah, we just were mentioning that. Joe was on.
I was on one.
Yeah,
That's
you were.
right. That's right.
I almost made that trip. I was close. Yeah, a couple obligations.
Joe was on the iconic trip where we got started getting emails. Students were getting emails while we were down in West Virginia about schools not being open.
The COVID year.
That thing called COVID was going around.
Yeah.
Man, wow.
And so these guys were going to come back, get their stuff out of the dorms and head home. And so that was a tough year. But yeah, I just enjoy kind of merging the two different components of the ministry that I do here, the traditional student ministry along with the student athlete ministry, and seek to find a place in the South, typically, where it's a little bit warmer. At least we can say we're going somewhere where it's going to be warm and we might get a little bit of a sunburn. But just to work on homes in a community where a natural disaster has occurred, whether that's flooding or tornadoes, hurricanes. And so we try to make a difference by putting a family back in their home a little bit quicker, a little bit sooner. So we've done everything from re-roofing houses to hanging drywall, taping, mudding, painting, building steps, doing trim work, quite a bit of stuff. And it's really kind of cool because a lot of students we have here at Ferris State are in some of those trade programs. And so they get an opportunity to practice some of those skills, whether it's construction or electrical engineering or HVAC. So yeah, a lot of the mission agencies that I've worked with over the years are just surprised that we have students who are skilled in that area, and they just are amazed. So it's pretty cool, a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
And it's great just hanging out.
Yeah, it's a nice fun week.
Yep. So we work hard and we enjoy time together during the evenings, and on the way back we'll try to schedule something fun to do if we can. Last year, the group that I took down to North Carolina on the return trip, we stopped in Kentucky and took a tour of the Ark, the big Ark.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, it was pretty sweet.
Yeah, very cool.
How much planning, how far ahead from the trip and planning do you have to do to kind of get that all situated?
So I'm talking to a few folks right now already, just trying to get an idea of where we could land with a group. And it's always a little bit challenging because they want to know how big is the group for housing purposes. And if we typically like to cook our own meals, but sometimes depending on the agency, they have meals, a breakfast and a supper prepared for us. But yeah, so some of those conversations are going on right now, trying to figure out where we'll head.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And another piece too is many people would probably see you on the sidelines of games, of course, and especially for football. Just talk about the interaction that you not only have with athletes and as well as the students as well, not necessarily off campus or necessarily out of their normal studies or practice time. And especially for athletes, you're able to be them with those moments when they're in game time as well.
Yeah. That's the special moments, and I don't want to be a distraction as to what's going on in that particular contest, whether it's basketball or soccer or football or volleyball, but just to kind of be there to let them know that I'm there, and if something unexpected happens. If there's an injury, then I've been asked, and that's just part of my wanting to serve and help. So I might have to, take an athlete to, go be seen by the doc or to the ER if they need to have somebody go along. So, but yeah, it's just great to give them encouragement. Sometimes players come up to me and they ask me if I would pray for them, and so we'll just have a prayer together right there on the sidelines or along the the back edge of the court or wherever that might be. So it's pretty special.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it is super cool. And you began kind of in the late 1990s when you started with Ferris. I mean, you kind of have a schedule. You've kind of gotten everything kind of down pat, I would feel like, being around for so long. But what does a kind of a weekly schedule look like for you from, right when you wake up Monday to when you finish it out Sunday evening?
Sometimes that's pretty fluid. This past Monday, for instance, I had to take two of our football players here had some surgeries in town with Dr. Daniil. And I thought that, it'll go pretty smooth. I'll get them both there and get them both back home. But it ended up being kind of the whole day. And so there's a couple of other things that I had to kind of shift and shuffle, to to get done on Tuesday. But typically, I try to make rounds here within the sports complex, and catch coaches in their office. Just try to touch base, see if there's anything that I can do, pray for, help with, and then, go about planning, writing messages for our weekly meetings. Sometimes I have to preach on Sundays, so I spend a lot of time reading and writing, in between going to practices and things like that. Preparing chapel messages, and then depending on what also transpires during the week. But then we have our set Tuesday night Fellowship of Christian Students meeting, and Wednesday night our Fellowship of Christian Athletes meeting, and then some other responsibilities that I have, just working with the church that I attend. The week goes by awful fast, and then obviously you mix in travel for game days, and sometimes we leave Thursday, sometimes we're hitting the road early Friday morning, getting back late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, and then just rolling.
Yeah, for sure. One last question for you, P. Mike. Appreciate having you on the show once again. Good to have you back. If there's a different answer that you would have, or maybe a secondary answer to the question, what's been your favorite thing about working with Ferris State and being a Bulldog?
The relationships, being part of the lives of young men and women who are putting themselves into a highly contested environment academically, to be able to perform in the classroom in order to compete, but then being on a team and a program that is very respected, and we have a tradition and history here of winning, and so the expectations are high. And but just to be a friend and to come alongside of them and get to know as many of those students as possible, and just enjoy the few years that we have here together at Ferris State.
Awesome.
Well, P. Mike, we thank you so much for all that you do at Ferris State, and for being a great friend of the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Brandon.
Big thanks to P. Mike for stopping by the show. Always great to chat with him. And if you missed out on that interview, as well as any of the other interviews that we've had on this show, first of all, shame on you. No, I'm just kidding. We're pretty forgiving. You can find...
I'm not.
You're not?
No.
Oh.
We have... Go back right now and watch all 200 hours of content that we have, and then come back to this moment.
If you actually watched every single episode...
Good on you.
Kudos to you. You did.
I haven't. I
don't think I have either. Anyway, you can find all those out WBRN.com, or as well on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Ferris State Sports Slate. Let's start on Friday at Northern Michigan for women's soccer GLIAC tournament semifinals. 2:00 kickoff there from Marquette, as well women's volleyball at home against Michigan Tech. 4:00 on Friday there at Bulldog Arena, just down the road from where we're recording right now. Northwood and Ferris State will be facing off men's basketball. 5:00 there in Painesville, Ohio, in tournament action, as well as women's basketball in tournament action at 6:00 against Missouri S&T down in Lebanon, Illinois. And to wrap it all up, ice hockey at home against Minnesota State Mankato. 7:07 puck drop from Engelgleben. Joe, hit us with Saturday.
I can never understand how to pronounce Engelgleben.
Engelgleben.
Well, eggs and bacon, whatever it may be. Saturday, football is against Wayne State at home. 1 p.m. is the kickoff. You better be there. You better be tailgating and better be having a good time. Women's volleyball is taking on Northern Michigan at home. 5:00. That one's going to go down. Men's basketball is at Lake Erie for the second day of action at 6:00. That one's going to be a good game. Men's ice hockey has the second game against Minnesota State. That one has a 7:07 p.m. puck drop. I think it might be at 6:07. They might have it wrong. Probably should do a little bit more research on your own to figure out when that happens. And then women's basketball is going to be closing out the nightcap with an 8:00 tip-off against McKendree at McKendree.
Absolutely. No action on Sunday unless Ferris State wins on Friday. They'll be in the GLIAC Tournament Championship on Sunday. TBA, find all that out on FerrisStateBulldogs.com
TBD.
if you want to learn more. That's going to do it for us. Signing off on Behind the Bulldogs for Brandon Wirt, Joe Nagy.
Take care, everybody.